Yeah, we're starting with that first. We're starting with this first part right here. So we're going to be going in order, but that doesn't mean that it's the order we learned it. But I do need you, make sure you're paying attention, make sure our voices are completely gone, and I need you focused up here. So these are the different properties. You learned this in middle school. You may see this on your test. You may want to take a look at it. I'm not going to go into detail about it, so they're kind of self-explanatory. So if you want to take a look at this before your test, feel free to. But I'm going to start with this part right here. If I say 7 increased by a number, what does that mean? Going up. So what are you doing? Adding, right? So it'd be 7 increased by a number. So you're writing that down. If I said decreased by, what does that mean? Subtraction. So 12 decreased by a number. 11 more than a number. What does more than mean? It's great. It's adding, right? If it says is more than, that would be the greater than sign. But more than is just my number and it's 11 after it, because it's 11 more than that number. What about 5 less than a number? Beautiful. N minus 5. 7 more than twice a number. So how do I write twice a number?
2n plus 7.
Cool. 2n plus 7, you could use 2x. I'm just using n for a number. The product, what does product mean? Multiplying. So we know we're multiplying of 5 and 3 times a number. So it'd be like 3, 10. The difference, what does difference mean? Subtraction of a number and 15. So remember, that was from our first. Any questions on this? Make sure you yell pause if you want me to pause or you want to get something. All right, equations. So first we're going to start right here. If something's outside of parentheses, what do I do? Distribute, which means we're doing what? Multiplying. So what's 2 times x? 2x. 2 times 9? Good. Equals 12. So then I need to get rid of my annoying friend 18. How do I do that? Add 18 to both sides. And you end up getting 2x equals 30. Then what do? Divide that 2, that clingy girlfriend 2, and you end up getting x to be 15. What if you're given, remember, most of your test is multiple choice. What if you were given answer choices and you totally forgot how to do this? What could I do with those answer choices? Plug it in, plug it in. All right, next one. I'm going to distribute this one just like I did the other one. And so you end up getting 2x minus 10 equals 2x plus 7. Now we have things on both sides. So remember our good old friend the river? Here we go. And so first I see, is there anything to combine on this side? Does anything have the same last name? Or on this side? Nope. So now I need to start moving. How do I move 2x to the other side? Subtract. But what is 2x minus 2x? Cancels each other out, or gets 0. And you end up getting negative 10 equals 7. Does negative 10 equal 7? No. So what's the solution?
No.
Remember this? No solution. So that's when you get a number equals a different number. When you get no solution in like system of equations, does anyone remember what type of lines are those? Starts with a P. Parallel. So parallel, and you can write whatever you feel like maybe you need to be reminded of. This is going to be your main little cheat sheet when you're studying. So like instead of looking over 100 million guided notes, you can just look over this thing. So make sure you put whatever you need to. Parallel, it means the same slope but different line intercept. So there are 2 lines that never meet. So if I get 2 numbers that are not equal, they're never going to be equal, they're never going to cross each other. Any questions on that one? Does anyone need me to pause? Or are we good? Okay. So now I'm going to multiply this to both, and I get 3x plus 6 equals x, and then I got to do it again over here, plus 2x plus 6. Then what do I do after that I did right up here? That river. So where can I combine like terms?
X and 2x.
What is x plus 2x? 3x. Good. Not 2x squared, because that would be if you're multiplying. A lot of people usually say that. So I end up getting 3x plus 6 equals 3x plus 6. Alrighty, you could tell they're going to have the same slope and the same y-intercept. Or if you're moving them over, it's going to end up being 0 equals 0, right? Everything crosses out. If you get 0 equals 0, what does that mean? How many solutions? Ooh, I like that. Infinite solution. That means with the same line, same slope, and same y-intercept. Is this bringing back some memories? So that same slope, same y-intercept, the same line. The other one, they're parallel. It's like when you're on a road, they're never, ever, ever going to cross. Any questions about that? All right. Now I'm over here, and I'm doing absolute value. Who can tell me what is absolute value? Kind of the opposite.
Absolute value is the
Positive, right? Those lines right here mean slice off any negatives. That's what they do, right? So slice off any negatives if they're in your answer. So what I'm going to do to solve this, I need to figure out what number can I subtract to 9 and get 12, first of all. So what number can I subtract to 9 and get 12? How do I figure that out? Add 9, and what do you get? I get x equals 21. So that's my first answer. This could also be negative 12, right? So I need to figure out what could get me negative 12, because when I get that negative 12, those lines slice off the negative, right? And I'm trying to be enthusiastic right now because I'm trying to go through 6 units in 90 minutes, and I want to keep your attention. So how do I get x by itself here? Add 9 to both sides, and you end up getting x equals negative 3. And so those are your two answers. Because if I did negative 3 minus 9, I would get negative 12. And what do those lines do? Slice off the negative, so your answer would still be 12. Does that make sense? Cool. Now we're going to literal equations. These are equations that you've been working on in my class. You work with in Mr. Knesny's class when you're trying to get a letter by itself. So here they're saying they want you to get r by itself. Right here, this little dot r. And literal just means you're dealing with letters. First, who can raise their hand and tell me how would I get rid of a fraction that's being multiplied? Man. Multiply by its reciprocal. So what is the reciprocal of 1/3? 3 over 1 or 3. And so you end up getting 3v equals pi r squared times h. So you're trying to get r by itself. Please make sure to yell pause if you need me to pause. That's how I know you just need some time. Now, if things are right here and there's no sign, what does that mean is happening? Multiplication. So how do I get rid of them? Divide them out, right? So what needs to be divided out? Pi and h. Beautiful. And so you end up getting r squared, I'm going to do it right here, r squared equals 3v over pi h. A lot of the people will say, yes, I'm done. But how do we get rid of a square? Square root that, right? And we know that would be my answer. That will for sure be on your milestone. Sometimes it was open-ended. Sometimes it's multiple choice. Any questions on this so far? I'm going to be going pretty quickly, so if you need me to pause, just yell pause. Does everyone have this down? Okay. Next one, inequalities. So I treat inequalities just like I would treat an equal sign, right? So right here, what am I going to draw in this inequality? River. Now I need to move things. How do I get 2x over there? Subtract. And you get negative 5 is less than 5x plus 15. Now, how do I move 15 to his buddy negative 5? Subtract him, right? Always the inverse. And negative 20 is less than 5x. Then how do I get x by itself? Divide. I divide it. Does this sign flip?
No, because you're divided.
By what? Positive Patricia. It's only when it's a negative Nancy. Remember that negative flips a sign? So negative 4 is less than x, or x is greater than negative 4. It could look both these ways. It may look either of those ways. Just make sure the mouth is eating x. So remember, most of your tests is going to be multiple choice. So you need to know that those two are the same thing. As long as that little alligator mouth is eating x, it's the same thing. Any questions on that one? All right, next one. I have negative x over 13 is greater than or equal to 7. So, how do I get rid of 13? Multiply, right? And you end up getting negative x is greater than or equal to 91. How do I get, what number is next to that x that's invisible? The 1, right? How do I get rid of negative 1? Divide by that negative, and what happens to that sign? It flips. Woo! You get x is less than or equal to negative 91.
Did you go?
It's next to it. It also can look like this. Any questions on that? So maybe put any notes that you need to remember. This is going to be your main guide. Like the night before the milestone, to look at this. So I don't want you looking at 1,500 pages, just this little thing. So maybe when you're dividing by negative, flip the sign. Whatever's going to help you remember it. Any questions on this one? Radicals are good old friends. Nice and background music. Nice. All right, so we're going to start with simplify. So I'm going to do 2 radical 45. Remember this is our first lesson ever. Yep, I'll scroll down real quick.
Thank you.
So George, I'm going to give you a 5-minute break. To go on your phone if you want to. So I'll wait. Super focused. I will give you a 5-minute break though. Okay, 2 radical 45. Remember the prom dates? All right, what can multiply to 45?
9 and 5.
9 and 5. Is any of those prime?
No.
5 is, right? Prime means only 1 times itself can get you that number. What multiplies to 9? 3 and 3. And are they prime?
No.
Yep. So who's Mr. Cool Guy already at prom?
3.
This 2 is already at prom. Here he is taking pictures. Who's joining 2?
3.
3. Remember, you only need 1 per couple. And then who's home crying? 5. Poor 5. There's his tears. Then what's the last thing I need to do? Multiply. So your answer is 6 radical 5. Bringing back memories?
Yeah.
Now, is that number rational or irrational? You could put in the calculator, but any radical that's not perfect is irrational. Any radical that's not perfect is irrational. So what is a perfect square? You can shout one out. 16. What's the square root of 16? 4. Another one. 25. What's the square root of 25? 5. So only perfect squares would be rational, which means I could turn it into a fraction. Anything like this would be irrational. It means it goes on forever and ever and ever, and those people who go on and they're not even making sense, that's irrational. So who is irrational? My favorite day of the year. What day of the year is my favorite? Pi Day. So what is pi? Irrational. Cool. So now we're going to go over adding. So I'm going to do 2 radical 45 plus radical 20. So we already got 2 radical 45. What was the answer? 6 radical 5. Normally you would go about doing that. But now we need to do 20. What goes into 20? 5 and 4. Or I need those prime? 5. And then what goes into 4? 2 and 2. So who's going to prom? 2's going to prom. No one's already there. Huh. Thank you. That's the point of it. Do you guys have any questions?
No, I just need time.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, 2's going to prom, and then who's staying home crying like a baby? 5, right? Now, if they have the same crybabies in the house, right, then we can combine or add them. So, what is 6 plus 2? 8. Do we add the radicals? No. Believe me that 8 radical 10 will be an answer choice. 8 radical 10 will be an answer choice.
You never add.
Never add the radicals. If they're different, we leave it. If they're different crybabies, we just leave it. All right, last one. 3 radical. 3 radical 6 times 2 radical 2. Write it in the margins or on the back, or you can write it on the separate sheet of paper. Yeah. Okay, so first, when we're multiplying, that's different. So first we're going to simplify them. What multiplies to 6? 3 and 2. Yes. Yes. And what about radical 2? It's prime, so circle it. So, who's already at prom? 3. You don't have room. Do it on the front or something. Or you could do it in your composition book. So who's already at prom here? 2 and 3. Popular ones. Who's joining them? These 2. Now, when you're multiplying, they can go to different schools and go to prom. Cool, right? So when you're multiplying, only when you're multiplying, they could go to different schools and go to prom together. Who's staying home crying? So see how they're from 2 different ones? But only do this when it's multiplying. Then what is 2 times 3? Times 2? Is this number rational or irrational?
Irrational.
Any questions? Okay. So, I'm going to go over this in the next page, and then I'll give you a 5-minute break. This in the next page, and I'll give you a 5-minute break. So stay with me, stay with me. So, remember in Unit 2A, when we had something that was a function and not a function, right? when something's not a function, what can't repeat? X, right? So when I'm putting an X over it, that means no. So the X can't repeat, that's how I remember it. So the X can't repeat or the domain can't repeat. So see this little guy 0 being shared with 2 different people? That makes it not a function. So right here, the zeros, the X can't repeat. Can the Y repeat? Yeah, it doesn't matter. The X can't repeat. So right here you can see none of the X's are repeating, right? Even though it's -2 and 2, that doesn't mean they're 2 different numbers. So as long as the X doesn't repeat, it is a function. If the X repeats, it's not a function. Any questions on that? So write down whatever you need to remember that you're not. Any questions? All right. So now we're doing domain and range. So what comes first in the alphabet, D or R? D, right? So I just remember D comes before R and X comes before Y. So the domain is your X and the range is your Y. That's how I remembered it when I was in high school. So the domain, I'm looking at the X's. And so how I write this is X has got to be in between, what's the smallest X that I have here, right here? -1, -2. Beautiful. So the domain goes from -4, and what's the biggest X? 4. And that's how you write it when it's not individual points. So X has got to be from -4 to 4, because the function doesn't go past that. So this is 4, and that's -4. I know it's a little hard to see. What about this domain? This is going all the way out to here. So what's the biggest this domain goes?
Whoa.
It's the same graph as this, so it's one more than this. 5, right? So it goes from 5 to negative, from -5 to 5. So remember, it's just the smallest X to the biggest X is your domain. Range is your smallest Y to the biggest Y. So what's your Y right here? 2 is your biggest Y. And what's your smallest Y? -2 right here. It's a little hard to see on the paper. So it goes from -2 to 2. What about the flower right here? -5 to 5. So it goes from all the way down here to all the way up here. It's -5 and 5. So whatever little things you want to do to make sure you remember it, go for it. Because this is your little study guide. All right, next one. I'm going to do something different than what's on your paper. I'm putting a dot right here. So domain. What's the biggest X there is? 5, right? So does the X's have to be bigger than 5 or smaller than 5? Smaller. So X is going to be smaller than or equal to 5. Does everyone get that? This is an arrow, so it's going on forever. So all the X's we know have got to be either equal to 5 or smaller. I'm going to say these are dots too. What is the biggest X there is here? 5 and -5. Girls, we're taking a 5-minute break in 5 minutes. Stay with me. Does anyone have any questions yet? I'm using different colors. Range. What's the highest Y there is on this one? 2. And so if the Y, if it's going down, would the Y be smaller than 2 or bigger than 2? Smaller than 2. So smaller than or equal to 2. What about right here? What's the biggest Y there is right here? 2, right? And what's the smallest? -2. There will 110% be answer choices where it has the right numbers but the wrong letter. Be careful. Domain is X, range is Y. Don't just pick the first one. Make sure you check over your work because there will definitely be an answer that says -2 is less than or equal to X. So the first thing you should do if it's talking about domain cross and eliminate with that little button all the y's, and vice versa. All right, I'm going over one more section, and I'm giving you a 5-minute break. Just stay with me. Does anyone still need this up? Cool. Is this the next section? Cool. All right, last one. So, linear. Linear is y equals mx plus b. You are given that equation on your formula sheet, but they do not tell you what n and b are. What is n? Slope, right? So n is the slope, and b is your what? Y-intercept. So now your domain, if it's going on forever and ever in both directions, what would we call that domain? All real numbers, right? In case it shows up on your test like this, it also could look like this. It goes from negative infinity to infinity. That just means it goes on infinity to negative infinity in both directions. That's the same thing as all real numbers. I don't know which ones they're going to give you on your test, so I just want to show you both of these mean the same thing. What about range if it's going up and down forever and ever? Same thing, all real numbers. It could be a symbol that looks like that. That means all real numbers. Remember, linear means it's a straight line. There's no curves in it, nothing like that. What's the next one called? What's this called? It is a parabola. What's it called? Quadratic function, right? So what's the domain if it's going forever and all the x from side to side, all real numbers? The range it gave you already, but it means the y has got to be greater than or equal to what number? What's the y right here? 0. Does that make sense? Last one. What's this called? And this is the one that I think a lot of people are forgetting about. It is geometric. What type of function is it called? First, exponential. It is a geometric. That's good because you need to know that too. Exponential. And I remember that x in there means we're multiplying something over and over again. And this is one that I made all the quizzes, so all your assessments and Kahoots you've done in the past, I made one for each chapter, and I'm going to put them on Google Classroom today. So if exponential is one that you need to work on and you totally forget, make sure you take a look at that, because I want you to pinpoint what you need to work on. So the domain, what would the domain be? All real numbers. What about the range? See how it's gearing off towards right here? So if it's going above that, is it y's greater than or less than? Greater than, and what's the y right here? 0. What's this called when something gears off towards a certain way? So, it's asymptote. And it's also called your end behavior. That will be on your test too, so if you don't remember that. End behavior is like where it's gearing off towards. So the end behavior here would be 0. It's also called your asymptote. So if you remember this, you only need to put things down, really. This is your little cheat sheet. So anything that you feel like you're not going to really remember, sit down. I know from experience, exponential is just one that was kind of in the middle, and it wasn't that long of a unit. So a lot of us kind of forgot about it. All right, last one before our 5-minute break. So the slope formula is given to you. Not that change in y over change in x, but this is given to you on your these 3 things are given to you on your formula sheet. So let's first look at this one. Is this a positive or a negative slope? Positive. Remember, you read left to right, just like you're going to read this slopes. So since it's going up, it would be a positive slope. Now to find the exact slope, remember you take 2 points, and it's a little hard to see on your sheet, so you can kind of just look up here or write down how you would go about doing it. And you see, okay, how much is it going up? It goes up 2, and then how much is it going over? It ends up going over 3. You might not be able to see it that clearly. So what would the slope be? So the 2, because it's rise over run. So 2 over 3. So rise over run. Remember we did that juju on that beat song? That remember the sophomores came in here and danced to it and stuff. So we'll go over how to graph them too, but Rise Over Run is in that song. So although the songs are super corny, a lot of them said when they got to the test it really helped them because they remembered the concepts. That's the point of it. And I could sing them a couple of times before your test. What about this slope? Is it positive? Negative. So it's going down. Yep, and when you end up doing this, it ends up being -2/3. Make sure they're both not negative. Make sure only one's negative, because a negative over negative makes it positive. What about this one? Anyone remember?
0. Did I say?
If you can make a z with it, it's a 0. So maybe that might be something that you forgot. So if you can make a z with it, it's a 0 slope. What if you can make a u with it, like this one? Undefined. Remember, if you're falling off the cliff, it looks like you're falling off. Undefined. Parallel, we talked about this earlier. They're same slope, but different y-intercept. And perpendicular, what's perpendicular? What do we know about the slope? I mean, you actually helped a mentor out with this the other day. Perpendicular.
Yeah.
Not solution. How do I find the perpendicular slope?
Oh, we have to,
Remember, he was doing this in 8th grade.
yeah.
Well, that's the point of intersection. How do I find, like, if my slope is 1/2, what's the perpendicular slope to that? Opposite reciprocal, so it'd be -2/1. So if you don't remember that, opposite reciprocal. No, I can't make it this week. All right, so transformation. This is back in the day, a couple months ago. So we kind of refer to this. Say this is f of x, right? And sometimes it will look like this. Remember, when your a is negative, it flips it. Remember that? Yeah. So it could also look like this, negative f of x. And when they say something like that, that means we flip it. Right here, remember plus k moving up, minus k moving down. Remember that whole song? So plus k would be, or minus k, plus k would be moving up, and then minus k would be moving down, right? So this could look something like this. Or sorry, no negative signs. So it could also look something like this, f of x plus a number. That would just mean you're taking the function and you're moving it up. So even if it's talking about linear, things like that, it means you're moving the function up. So how many times did I move this one up? 1, 2, 3. So how do I write this function? Y equals x squared, and then what comes after it? Plus 3. Beautiful. So no matter if it's exponential, linear, anything like that, if it is after whatever the function says, it's moving it up. If it's minus, it's moving it down. What about minus h to the what?
Right.
Right. So minus h is to the right, plus h is to the left. It could also look something like this, so where it has a number in there. So if it's minus h, it's to the right. How many times to the right did this go? 1, 2, 3. So how would I write that? Y equals x. What would go right here? Minus 3. And that goes right here. Squared. So minus h to the right plus h to the left. Remember that whole song? Plus k moving up, minus k moving down. So right here is minus. And remember, minus is always the opposite of like vertex and things like that, which we'll go over in a second. So right here, how many times, now it's moving both right and up. So how many times is it moving right? 1, 2, 3. So I would write that as y equals x minus 3. And then how much are you going up? 1, 2, 3, 4. So what would go right here? Plus 4. Beautiful. Is this coming back to life?
Yeah.
How do I find what my vertex is? Looking at that equation, remember that? Is you could see your axis of symmetry is 3, right? Right here. It's the opposite of what's in the parentheses. Remember, when we're factoring or doing anything like that, everything in the parentheses is opposite of what it's asking usually. So if it's just asking for the equation, that's fine. But if they're asking for the vertex, it's the opposite of what's in parentheses. So what's the x coordinate of your vertex? 3. And then what's the y coordinate? 4. It's the same as that one, which is that point right here. What's your What's your x coordinate of your vertex called? Axis of symmetry. Cool. What about your y coordinate?
No.
Goes to m.
Minimum or maximum?
Min or max, right? So would this be your min or your max? Min, right? Because I had a student last time said positive Patricia gets all the min. But negative Nancy doesn't get any min. She has a max. However you want to remember it. Does that make sense? All right. Yeah.
What's the
This formula is given to you on your formula sheet right here.
So that's the formula we use.
If it's transformations or if they're asking for like the vertex or things like that. So if we're getting into vertex form, remember that's the completing the square, and you would make this one. So if that's something you don't really remember, definitely kind of keep note of that so you can do that practice. Yeah, so I only want you focusing on, you don't have time to focus on 6 units. So if like this is something you don't remember, just take note of it. All right, exponential. So if it's going up, would that be growth or decay? Growth. And so a lot of people are forgetting about the formula. And you're given y equals ab to the x, but you are not given this one. Anyone remember this?
Yes.
So A, does anyone remember what A is? What is it? What's that?
It is.
Anyone remember? Y-intercept or your initial value. So remember, if something's after this, that just means they're taking the y-intercept and bringing it up. What does R stand for? Not slope.
Initial x.
The y-intercept. Your R is your rate, so like your growth or decay rate. So if you're adding to 1, it means growth. If you're subtracting, it's decay. So right here, this would have to be greater than 1. And so let me show you an example. I'm going to make one up. TJ just started a bank account, right? He has $100, and every year he accumulates 5% interest. So his starting amount is how much? 100. So that would be his A. And then, since it's growing, interest means it's growing, would it be plus or minus? 1 plus, and what's 5% as a decimal? 0.05, good. To the x. So, your main one would be y equals 100, 1.05 to the x. And we can see it's bigger than 1, and that's what it's talking about here, so it would be growth.
Wait, I can't see.
I'll bring it down. Here you go.
That makes sense.
What exactly is
So that would be like the years. So if I said, okay, then how much would TJ have in 10 years? You would plug that in. Right here, I just added 1 plus 0.5 to get 1. Do you want me to give you another example?
Yes.
So Jabari has 2 fish, and every day his fish increased by 25%. So, how many fish does he start with?
2.
2. And every day it's increasing. Am I subtracting or adding?
And
And what's 25%? And that's the x. So x always stands for your years, or whatever time they're referring to. And so sometimes they'll leave it like this. Sometimes they'll try to simplify it. So what's 1 plus 0.25? 1.25. And so automatically seeing that this number is over 1, I know it's right. If the number was under 1, what would it be? Decay. So I'll give you an example of that. Alana has $1,000 in her bank account, and every month she spends 15%. So how much does she have in her bank account? 1,000. And when she spends, is it adding or subtracting now? Subtracting 15%. What is 1 minus 0.15? 0.85, right? And so now when we look at that, it's not as obvious anymore of what percent is decaying. We would have to say, okay, if we were just given this equation, we would say, okay, how far away is 85 cents from $1? 15. So we would have to figure out what it's decaying by. So this is one that you need help with. I put every type of question on that quizzes that you would see. So some of them, guys, will give you an equation and you'll have to figure out what it's saying. Some of them you'll have to write an equation. Some of them you'll have to figure out, okay, what would this be decaying by if it's 0.85? You can also on your handy dandy calculator, you know how we did the linear, the blind and best fit? You guys know how we did that last unit where you put it into L1 and L2, all of that? You can do the same thing. So if they give you points, you can put it into L1, L2. And you know how we had linear regression? It looked like this, LIN regression. That's how you got your A and your B. This is from last unit.
Yeah.
So they have one that says exponential regression. And so that boot camp, that thing that's on Saturday, or it's in a couple Saturdays, we're just going to be going over that calculator cheat sheet mostly. So if that's something you kind of want to look at and you want to utilize, make sure you come that Saturday. And so if this is one that you don't really understand that much, make sure you guys do that quiz. I'll give you one more example. Cool. Is this growing or decaying? By what? 30%. They're gonna have an answer choice that says decaying by 70%. For sure. I bet you on it. But you know, you're smart enough, you go, okay, how far away is that from the dollar? 30 cents. Cool. All right. Next one. So, this is my little song. Remember that juju on that beat? Remember we did pluck the bee, pluck the bee, pluck the bee, hey. So which one's your bee?
2 over 3. Oh no,
That's your slope.
-2.
-2. So it's a little hard to see on your paper. If you want to just write how you would go about doing it, that's fine. So pluck the bee, pluck the bee, pluck the bee, hey. Then what do I do? Rise over run, hey, let's go. Remember that? So what's your rise?
2.
Up 2 over 3. Pluck. You draw a line. So since it says an equal sign, we're just drawing a line. So go through and do that with all 4 of these, but what do you notice about the inequality signs? Which one, if these two have a line underneath it, is that a solid or a dotted line? If they have a line underneath it.
Solid.
Solid. Remember, that line is saying make it solid. So if it looks like this or like that, saying make it solid. What about like this? They want you to do a dotted line. So it's the same equation 4 times. Go ahead, do it on your paper real quick. Yep, so this will be solid, but this is just your equation. This will be shading. So first you're drawing a line, and remember, inequalities means there's going to be multiple answers. So we're trying to figure out which ones will be answers. And so right here, I'll start with this. So this is solid. And then, is y greater than or less than? right here. Is y being eaten? Or is y not being eaten? Being eaten, right? So here is Elijah. He's walking up the hill. There he is. And so if it's being eaten, is it above his head or below his feet? Above his head, right? So all these would be solutions. Remember this? So this is unit 2B, or 2A. Now, if I said, sometimes there's going to be a lot of times on your milestone where they're going to say, is this point a solution? So you can either go about going like this and seeing if the point's a solution, or what can we always do with our answer choices? Plug it in, right? So, right here, so if I had something that fell on the line, would that be a solution?
Yes.
Yeah, what if it was on a dotted line? No, right, so only if it's on a solid line. So right here, it's the same line, but now what are you shading? If it's not being eaten, then you know. Yep, so you can draw, here's Elijah right here, you're shading below his feet. And then we have the dotted line right here, so we have here, here, oh. And if y is not being eaten, where do I shade? Below. And then the next one, what will it be? You can always check your work by plugging in your answers. So anything you don't remember, or if this is one that maybe you kind of want to look over, make sure you go and start that. All right, any questions on that? Or need me to pause?
Turn them off. We have to be really accurate with it.
Sure.
It's like they're looking at you.
Yeah, usually they'll either give you a graph and it will be very obvious. Like it's not going to be anything that's, but you will have to like plot the slope and do all that. There may be one last year, I think the one had to do with like they gave you a table and you had to come up with the equation. So you can always do that right in your calculator. That stat, edit, all that. But last year there wasn't.
So when you do that edit for this, you can find your slope in the y.
But you can always go into y equals and graph it and make sure it's correct too. So there's ways that you can shade. And so we're going to be going over that in that Saturday session. You can learn how to shade on your calculator, if it's an open or close or solid or dotted line. You can do everything on your calculator. So that Saturday will just be for like calculator cheat sheets. Okay, next one is factoring. Let me see. Know what's going on with my computer. Okay, we'll